Welcome to this special interview supporting World EV Day. My name is Philip Nothard, Insight Director at Cox Automotive. And if you don't know, World EV Day was on Monday the 9th of September. It's a global celebration of the transition to electric vehicles and the movement to educate, share and inspire this adoption. All week we've taken the opportunity to explore the influence of EVs on our sector and, more importantly, our customers. Today, I'm delighted to be chatting with Liam Quegan and Karoline Baumann. Liam is Cox Automotive's Managing Director, Wholesale, and chairs the EV Working Group, a business-wide initiative tasked with identifying change. And as Strategy Director for Europe, Karoline is heavily involved in planning for the future, guiding the business focus and supporting customers with their strategy planning. So welcome both to this discussion on the World EV Week.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Hi.
So let's start off with yourself, Karoline. Let's start by setting a bit of the scene and some context. And can you give us a sense of the scale of change that is ahead of us and what sort of time frame we're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. Electric vehicles, we've seen a steady increase in the adoption of electric vehicles, which has really increased in acceleration and pace over the last few years. When we look back to 2016, EVs in the UK really only made up about 0.4%. By 2019, in that kind of 3-year period, we were still only roughly about like 1.6%. But in the last about 5 years, since 2019, we've seen a really, really fast pickup of that pace. At the end of last year, we had 17% market share of electric vehicles in the UK. This year, 2 out of 5 cars being sold are EVs. And so we kind of see how that growth is accelerating. And, that's really normal for new technology. And we really, in our new industry forecast, which is the industry first, really, when we look kind of the 4-year forecast for fuel types, which you kind of regularly update as well, we really see that continuous adoption to increase. We think by 2028, so when we look at that 4-year period, we get to roughly 34% EV uptake, which is really then almost on par with petrol, and diesel slowly disappearing from the fuel type mix. And that's driven by varieties of factors. We know that currently in the UK, by 2035, we have the ICE ban coming, which is currently under review to pull back to 2030. Sort of the subsidies play a role in that as well. Consumer demand is increasing. We see more supply of electric vehicles coming into the market. So all these kind of factors, the infrastructure that is being built up, these are all these kind of factors that are driving continued growth in EVs. And as more consumers sort of try EVs, they get more comfortable with it as well. And I think all these kind of new changes that we're seeing in the industry will help to continue to drive that adoption as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, and obviously, I mean, Cox Automotive, we operate right across the entire ecosystem of the sector, and our customers from the manufacturers, the OEMs, the fleet rental operators, those lease cos, right through to the dealers at all levels, whether that's a small independent through to your large franchise groups or supermarkets, etc. And probably a question for both of you on this one, and probably over to yourself first, Liam, is thinking about what support they are looking for as we navigate through this change, and more importantly, what questions are they asking us at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, look, the transition to electric is probably the biggest change in the automotive industry for many generations, and probably the biggest that we'll see in our lifetime. So the reality for many of our clients and customers is that there's a great deal of uncertainty as to how that transition works. Our role is to try and support them whichever way we can, and also to provide insight and thought leadership in the best way to handle scale fleets when there are, in essence, when there are large amounts of those vehicles that are electric. It's not as simple as just being about charging. That's sort of the practical application of usership is that you've got to charge these vehicles rather than go to the petrol pump. That's almost in some ways the easy bit. The harder things where our clients are talking to us a lot are How do you provide, energy security? How do you make sure that the batteries are safe as these vehicles go through their lifetimes? And that's a really difficult challenge, just understanding battery health as has become the term. These vehicles are larger in some cases, they're certainly heavier than the average. And that's sort of all the practical applications that our clients need help on. But then there are other things as well, and there's a huge amount of issues kind of commercially. These vehicles have seen more price volatility, partly because they make up a smaller part of the overall car park. So at the moment, there's still a normalization as to what the price of an electric vehicle should be, particularly used electric vehicle, but also we've seen volatility in new. But also the fact that there's such a difference between different models, different makes, different marks. So it's our clients are looking across a broad spread of needs and looking to us to help educate them on the best way to handle both the practical issues of an electric vehicle and the transition to electric, but also the pricing, and particularly as used vehicles start to return at scale, as Karoline's already outlined. So there is it's a big challenge. There's also a massive opportunity both for our clients and for ourselves, because if you crack this, there's a huge. We know that this is the direction of travel for the broader car park. So yeah, it's a really exciting time to be part of the EV transition, I would say.
And Karoline, I mean, thinking about those conversations that you're having across UK, European, and those longer term views of that more strategic planning from all our customers and where they're looking at us to support and answer some of those questions, what's the sort of conversations and questions you're being asked?
Liam touched on a really important topic there in terms of the residual value uncertainty. I think at the moment as well, there's quite a few headlines in terms of, what's happening with EV demand. Is it slowing down? And I think, these are kind of questions that are really important to all our customers, whether they're fleet, OEMs, or dealers, who are all feeling that pressure. And I think he touched on a really important point in terms of some of that is part of a normalization. We're talking about a new technology, a new way of working to some extent as well, of handling these vehicles. There's less numbers in there, so it's helping our customers navigate kind of those uncertainties, right? Whether it's with actual practical advice in terms of handling these vehicles, it's about helping to forecast demand, especially in the kind of the used car sector. There's a lot of focus on the new car sector. So those are a lot of conversations we're having. But then the other element, obviously, that we touch on a lot as well is, EVs have also changed other areas of the industry that go beyond the powertrain and the charging. When we think about, retail models, with kind of the agency model really sort of started with EVs in terms of, is there a different way to sell vehicles? And it's kind of spread throughout the industry. The kind of the digital retail element is one element of that, and we support that through our product suite across the retail solutions piece. And then the last piece is kind of, the in-life services as well. We see a lot of different usage of EVs, with ownership, usership kind of discussions that we're having. A lot of customers, choose to not buy an EV necessarily outright, but maybe go to usership models. And that could have several reasons. It can be financial reasons. It could be, they kind of want to try this first, uncertainty about the battery. So there's all these different factors that kind of play into that. And we are really looking at how do we support our customers in there through EV battery services solutions that we have, which is all about kind of how do you extend the life of the battery, how do you repair and remanufacture batteries. So these are all these kind of services that we're helping customers, both in terms of giving them practical solutions and products to sort of navigate that, but then also with insight and advice along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And Liam, I mean, we've touched on, charging, that installation of charging, and we know that there's more to catering for this transition to electrification than just installing some chargers at destinations. And can you share and talk us through some of a bit of insight into some of the areas in which Cox Automotive are investing and making changes to accommodate this increasing EV vehicle park that we face?
Yeah, of course, and it's multifaceted, and this will develop as we go on the dare I say it journey, on the EV journey. The first thing is let's not underplay charging. We will need to have significant charging infrastructure, particularly in our vehicle services business, whereby we're bringing large volume of fleet businesses, the fleet vehicles, I should say, back to market. We will need a lot of chargers, and we're on a journey of bringing a large number of chargers across our infrastructure. We've already done lots of it. We've got much more of it to do. Connected to that is the direct issue of energy security and, frankly, energy costs. So over time, we'll be looking to invest materially in renewable energy sources as well, both to protect that energy security, as the grid is going to become challenged as the transition to EV continues. It's also the right thing to do, because from our company's perspective and from society's perspective, generating electricity as renewably as possible is important. So those things matter. We're also going to touch on a couple of other things, though, that are really important right now. The first one of those is diagnostics. We've talked about battery health, and that's important, and will become increasingly important, particularly as these vehicles get older. So getting to the right answer in terms of the best way to diagnose the health of a battery and how that's performed over lifetime and the usage it's had before it comes to us is important. And our US parent is developing a whole range of tools in that space. So we're really excited about that. Then there's a whole host of other things that we're beginning to materially consider. The electric vehicle is a different vehicle to what we're accustomed to. Yes, it's still got a steering wheel and four wheels, but under the hood, it's a completely different vehicle. And therefore, what we need is technicians who are skilled in different ways to those who have traditionally been working on the ICE engine. So we are investing materially in bringing in technical people who understand how the electric vehicle works and understand how it can be developed. It's a very different vehicle. There'll be probably much less mechanical work that we need to do at the moment, but there will be different skills required. Other important things that we're looking at, so we're looking at logistics, how these vehicles are transported and how that they can be managed safely. Electric vehicles have different safety protocols, and these safety protocols and regulations will change over time, I'm sure. And we need to therefore be very much in front of that as well. So it's almost every aspect of the way that our business works, and we're looking at investing and changing the way that we operate so that we can accommodate the transition. As I said when I was talking earlier, though, this remains, I think, a really exciting opportunity. I think it's not a negative. This is about a transition to a different way of working. And whilst it can feel quite daunting at this point in time, I think the end point is actually a very clean way of working and different rather than worse. So I think it's a very good time to be part of the industry, frankly.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And Karoline, I mean, Liam's talked a little bit there about some of the, great perspective, some of that challenges and opportunities we see in terms of that physical handling of battery electric vehicles as that vehicle park starts to increase. And you touched on a little bit earlier, thinking about those conversations you're having at that higher level around strategies. But what are we seeing, and how are we helping our customers with that change in, as the OEMs, the fleet, the retailers transition and look for different ways of support through third-party solutions and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are, like everyone else, like, this is a journey, right? This is going to be a multi-year journey. This is very much a long-term play, and the way to get there might change on the way and kind of ebb and flow a little bit, but we're very clear on the end destination. And as Liam said, we are really excited to be part of the journey with our customers. We have a dedicated working group set up within Cox Automotive to kind of support and share knowledge and sort of make sure we stay at that front foot of innovation. And I quickly touched on it earlier in terms of how for electric vehicles, kind of some of the retail models are changing, which we're supporting with our software suite across retail solutions. within Retail Solutions, we also have sort of fleet tools as well, and then sort of the EV battery solutions piece is really important in that. The batteries are obviously a huge part of in EV, both from a value point of view, but also from a complexity point of view. It requires completely new skills and technologies, and it's kind of supporting our customers with that. So how do we extend battery life, both in terms of sort of support, but then also from a sustainability point of view? And I think that's a key point for us as well, to work with our customers who are still navigating these new waters as well, and how do we handle them safely, and then really sharing that expertise that we've gathered for over the past 10 years. And we were named the number one market leader in terms of battery servicing by Frost & Sullivan, and as Liam mentioned, we work very closely with the US parent on that as well. So there are all these different ways of that EV are impacting the ways of working across the whole value chain that we're supporting our customers on.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Liam, we a lot of what we've talked about so far, is hinged around that, particularly the OEMs and this transition for the OEMs, the manufacturers. We know that the fleet is a big support of this transition in terms of where these vehicles are heading and where we operate within that space. But as we say, retailers, dealers, and those, whether it's the franchise groups through to the supermarkets down to those small owner-driver independents, play a crucial role in this transition to electrification. They are key to the success of this. And I mean, what are some of the ways in which we're helping the retailers in this transition to a more electrified alternative fuel sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, you're absolutely right. And at the moment, there is a danger that it can feel very fleet orientated in terms of the way that we think about this. I mean, I think that what we're doing a lot of is we're talking with a lot of our clients about how best to manage this transition. I think a key thing for us, obviously, our auction business, which is one of our largest parts of our business, is critical in terms of returning vehicles to dealers in different ways, both independent and, of course, the franchise sector. I think one of the things that we're doing a lot of is talking about pricing and talking about where these vehicles are, going to go over time, and spending a significant amount of time with our buyers actually on what's right for an electric vehicle and the best way to think about them. I mean, I think that the other thing that's important is we can't pretend this isn't where the whole industry is going to go over time. So it can feel like real choppy waters at the moment. The biggest problem has been, for me, less about the infrastructure. For when it comes to dealerships, it's been about pricing. So we've just got to spend a load of time continuing to talk with folks around the best way to price vehicles when you're selling them, and also what you need to be buying. And that's what we spend a lot of time doing in the auction space. I do think it's been really challenging, and we can't hide from the fact that it's been really challenging on the pricing front since pretty much Q4 last year, and I think that's created quite a lot of nervousness at the dealership level. A bit different in the fleets because it's a different sort of nervousness, frankly. But at the dealer level, it remains uncertain. But I think they've got to stick with the direction of travel, because ultimately this is what's going to happen. So I think things will settle down. I'm hopeful they already have to a degree. And as we go into 25, I think that the conversations around the best way to price for vehicles when you're buying them and then when you selling them down the line is just going to be so crucial. There's lots of other ways we've already sort of talked about the way that we think about logistics. I think that will be key, in how we make sure that we get vehicles to clients in the right way and can transport enough of them. That will be important. But from a dealer perspective, it's really about sticking to the fact that this is a direction of travel, but being really aware of the way the pricing is going to work, because it's going to there will be choppy waters for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's definite. I think just giving them that confidence, support, that knowledge, that insight that there are opportunities, there is areas that they should be investing in, there is product that they should be getting involved with, and help them through this transition, because as you say, it's moving very quickly, and every area of the sector is heavily involved with this transition.
I think it's also important, I'm an electric vehicle owner, or user, I should say. I'm not an owner, but I am a user, and so is Karoline, and so many of us on the leadership team at Cox. I think the experience of a electric vehicle is, in a lot of ways, I've already said, is quite similar. It still feels like a car, but in a lot of ways, it's also very different. And I mean, Philip, not that long ago, we were on a conversation around. I hadn't really grasped just how important this sort of user experience in terms of this term smartification is as well. I mean, some of the product now is so impressive in terms of the technology that it's using, the grid and the ability to charge a vehicle. I mean, I'll be honest with you, as a user of an electric vehicle, I came into it sort of with some trepidation around the charging needs. Actually, that's been really straightforward for me. I as long as you're a little bit planned, it generally works really well. And I think that's sort of some of the myths of what it's like to be an electric vehicle owner or user, I've certainly sort of dispelled. But this kind of concept of the user experience, the smartification, the technology some of these vehicles have got on board now is just, I mean, it's so different even in the last kind of couple of years to kind of pre-COVID vehicles just feel so different nowadays. So I think it's very exciting to be able to be part of the transition, but some of the product is just outstanding as well. So I think it's it's an exciting time to be a driver. I think it's not just be part of the industry. I think these vehicles will be very different and very impressive in lots of ways.
Yeah, like you say, it's getting that experience, that message, that usage out there, that understanding through, out to the consumers, the customer, essentially getting that experience out there. And finally, Karoline, I think you mentioned it slightly before, but it's becoming more of a conversation now. We well over that 1.2 million, 1.3 million used EVs in the UK vehicle park, and a lot more across obviously Europe there. And as these vehicles become more of that used vehicle market space now, it's conversations more about that in life of a battery electric vehicle. This is an area that we know that Cox Automotive are investing in, and we've touched on some of those areas of investment and opportunities we see in this battery electric vehicle market. But can you tell us a little bit more about what we're doing in that sort of in-life services for this battery electric vehicle sector?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you touched on a point there as well in terms of the used EV market is growing, and it's about installing confidence as well in those vehicles and kind of the battery performance. And within Cox Automotive, we have a very, very long history of innovation, of investing in new technology, of sustainability. So naturally for us, EV batteries was something that, as within Cox Automotive on a global scale, we made the decision to invest in that area very early on and become the market leader in that space, right? And across the globe and across the markets we operate EV battery solutions in, we've handled over 60,000 batteries. So that's a lot of expertise we've gathered. And that ranges from battery diagnostics, so even just understanding what's wrong with the battery, to then battery repair. As you can imagine, batteries highly specialist area, highly specialist equipment required. So that's something that we're really market leader in. Battery remanufacturers, when you think about kind of remanufacturing batteries to the manufacturer specifications, when we think about warranties, all of that's really, really important as you think about the used car market. And these are all the things that we're really, really heavily investing in, because we really believe in to help that adoption of EVs. You cannot do that without the used car market, right? We've talked about the volatility of the prices earlier, about financial accessibility for customers. The used car market, like it has been for petrol and diesel vehicles, is an incredibly important part to make sure this industry gets to sort of mainstream adoption and continues that pace of growth. So that's really important for us. And that's really where we believe in extending the battery life and extending the life of the EV. And that's obviously where we're really heavily focused investment in the EV battery solution space.
No, that's it's good for people to hear that now, that as we move through and used EVs become more of that landscape in UK, Europe, and across that global market, that we are investing, we are supporting our customers at whatever level that is in the marketplace. So a huge thank you to both yourself, Karoline, and yourself, Liam, for this such engaging and thought-provoking conversation as the market tries to think about how we navigate through this transition to a more electrified marketplace, and ourselves as Cox Automotive support our customers at all levels in this transition. For more updates, if you want to check out what we're doing from Cox Automotive, please do head over to coxautoinc.eu, and you'll find more insights, more news, and more updates from Cox Automotive there. We hope you've enjoyed the discussion today as much as we did, and please, hopefully, we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Karoline.
Thanks, Philip.
Thank you.